Legend comes to the market today. It's gone up ever so fractionally. It's only up 2 cents now above. Well, it was priced near to the top of the range there as well. Well, what's the story here?
Well, they had a pretty strong book, and half of the deal was already parked away with the 24 cornerstone investors. So you could say the banks had already done half the job before even launching the transaction. The book was also said to be pretty strong on the part of the institutions. The retail offering was 44 times subscribed.
Well, that's actually quite modest, isn't it, by some of the standards
it's
which have been set
actually modest,
late?
but then again, look at the quantum. You know, it's
yeah.
$2 billion IPO, and it could become bigger if the green shoes exercised. Which
you should explain that. That is in case they want to raise more money, in essence. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't have to stabilize the share price at the aftermarket, and you can then raise more money. But obviously, the timing is horrendous. So, you know, given that all the markets around Asia are down today and they're trading slightly up, I think they're doing pretty much
well, they're flat. In fact, we're down now, and I think it was $42.98. Very important to have that 8 there, wasn't there?
Absolutely, yes. Lucky number for the Chinese. They wanted to leave a little bit on the table for investors, and obviously finishing with an 8 is supposed to bring good luck.
Okay, now it's gone up again, right? But we can't just, you know, talk about these movements all the time. But what does all this... I mean, you said it's horrendous timing now, but we see this voracious appetite for these stocks, for IPOs in China and in Hong Kong, particularly in China. Is the party over?
I don't think it is. I think the markets are going to continue to be pretty volatile, especially until we know the outcome of that referendum in Greece next Sunday. I think we very much will continue to see a binary outcome for IPOs. You know, some will do pretty well.
Well, it hasn't been binary this year, has it, generally speaking?
It's actually been binary for some of the bigger ones. But, you know, the small caps have been the real winners in Hong Kong. You know, some of the IPOs that have come to market are up, you know, 1,000%.
I mean, that's just not sustainable, is it?
That's not sustainable, and it's, you know, supply and demand. And when you're talking about very small quantums, it doesn't mean an awful lot. But I think investors are probably going to become a little bit more choosy. I think investors will have will apply pressure and will demand valuations that are realistic.
But is the money there to go around? That's the other point.
The money is there, and I think as long as you get this imbalance between supply and demand, you know, in the long run, the Chinese market is going to continue to do pretty well.
I think we had $13 billion raised in Hong Kong so far this year. Is that correct?
We've got about $16 billion for IPOs, but 50 if you include all the secondary offerings. It's actually the largest ever run for capital markets for the first 6 months of the year if you include the placements and the block trades.
Okay, what we've seen in Shanghai in the last 2 weeks, we've seen declines take place. I think the biggest declines.
Right, yeah, two sharp corrections. Yeah.
Exactly, but is this part of a big correction here taking place, or are we now perhaps bottoming out? What happens? Because there's a long way to go down, isn't there?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, even with the 2 corrections, the market is still up, you know, 120% over the last year. So as you say, there's a long way to go down. I think over the long run, the market will continue to do okay and to increase, maybe not as much, but at a steady pace. But
what about the pipeline for IPOs onto this market too?
Well, the pipeline continues to be pretty strong. I mean, for the A shares, you know, the authorities have just approved another run of 20 IPOs, and in Hong Kong we've got 12 transactions that should come to market and start the debut over in the first week of June. So,
but Philippe, just getting back to the markets as well, you know, you got a triple R cut, you got a proper interest rate cut from the PBOC. Now, you'd expect the benchmark indices in Shenzhen and Shanghai to really rally strongly on that. We had a volatile session in Shanghai. I think the Shenzhen market was down last time I looked at it. What does that tell us as to where we are?
I think it tells us that there is a lot of uncertainty in the market and a lot of volatility. But at the end of the day, remember, a lot of the people who play IPOs in China borrow on margin, and a cut in interest rates is just going to make that cheaper for them.
Precisely, but there is talk that that margin trading and margin lending is actually perhaps going to be outlawed even. What's the reaction to that?
That will have a big effect, and you know, people will have a pretty strong reality check. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we probably are going to see a pretty sharp correction. I don't know when that's going to happen, but you know, longer term, I think the market will continue to do well.
How far is the rally that we've seen down to the house prices and the housing market in China looking fragile and actually, well, having a downturn?
I think that's actually a significant, that's got a significant impact, because at the end of the day, you need to park your money somewhere. What can you do with it in China? You know, you've got a number of IPOs coming to market. They seem to be a one-way bet, at least up to now, and that's where people are parking their money. So, you know, real estate is not really an interesting proposition right now in China.
Okay, well, out of all the IPOs this year so far, which one has, A, been the most interesting for you, and which one, in your view, has been the most successful?
I think I would say GF Securities in Hong Kong, because it was yet again another IPO of a Chinese broker. But then again, it's up 15%, seems to have done pretty well, certainly compared to some of the other larger ones that we've seen coming to market over the last few weeks.
And in the pipeline, anybody grabbed your attention?
I think in the pipeline, more in the financial sector, we've got Guardian Security coming. I think we're going to see transactions by insurers as well, and I think we're also going to see transactions in the medical or healthcare sector as well.